Good afternoon, gardening friends. Back in the pollinator habitat. It's December 19th, 2020. Thought I'd just wrap up the year with a little look at the garden now that we've had some snowfall. We didn't get too much, a couple inches. Snow does make a good insulator for our perennials. It keeps the ground from doing too much freezing and thawing, protects the crowns of plants, and it keeps some of our evergreens that are ground covers from getting windburn. So if you live in an area where you get snow, it is a good thing to have during the winter. I like to see, a couple inches, 6 inches. Of course, I don't want 2 feet on the ground. And also thinking about nesting and overwintering places for our native bees. So I'm hoping as this garden matures, these plant stalks will provide nesting and overwintering spots, as many of our native bees spend much of their life in their immature or larval forms. The egg will be laid in the spring, and then they basically spend most of their life as that larva in a stem like this, which is why you don't want to do a thorough cleanup of your garden in the fall. You're throwing away next year's bee babies. So if you do need to do a cleanup, you want to wait till sometime in April after we've had a series of temperatures over 50, or when you've seen bees or bumblebees flying around. Bumblebees overwinter as mated queens. They like little cavities or tufts of grass, some of our bunch grasses, even old abandoned rodent nests. That's where they will overwinter. So I try not to do much of a cleanup until I've started to see them come out. Sometimes it's later in the spring. But this is also why I want to have kind of a wild, natural area. The stems will spend time there. They'll break down eventually, adding more nutrients back to the soil. And it should be pretty self-sustaining. So I've got a chair in front of my path here, hoping that'll keep the deer from walking into this area and checking things out. I do have tracks in the snow. I was looking at them as I walked out. I've got deer and rabbits. So snow does let you see what you've got. Tracks in here are mostly, looks like I've got some rabbit tracks, but no deer. So things are pretty quiet. The birds have been busy. And can hear a few in the background. And I'll be planning for next year during the winter. Looking at some of the other habitat in the yard. Right now we've got all of these goldenrods. They're providing seed for some of the birds. I've had a lot of goldfinches coming back. The sumac is good for the robins, cedar waxwings, bluebirds. Even the starlings will eat the berries on the sumac through the winter. My brush piles are pretty obvious right now, and those are good overwintering spots for the bees that like to nest in old wood or cavities. The brush piles are also spots for the birds to go for shelter if we have a storm or if they're trying to escape predators. Got a couple of possums on the property, and pretty sure they live back here. And I don't worry too much about the possums. They actually are one of the, I think the only mammal that can actually eat ticks off their own bodies. So they're my little tick machines. So if you've been following my videos, this was where the asters were blooming a couple months ago. Now you see we still have the flower heads, so those are also good seed sources for some of our native sparrows and finches that spend the winter here. And it does look different. And this little meadow area, you know, during the winter, these plants will break down. If we get a big snow, they'll just be on the ground. And then at some point in the spring, I usually mow out here just to kind of make it a little cleaner. I probably shouldn't, because they probably have bees could be nesting in here and other insects could be nesting. So I'm going to have to change that practice or do it a little later in the spring. This is a switchgrass. Again, seeds can provide food for the birds. So winter is also a good time to take a walk around your property and kind of assess the bones of it, what you're missing. I would really like to get some more evergreens for a bigger diversity of trees out here, and also winter shelter for my birds. So we'll be looking at that and planning for next season. Of course, in the spring, I'm going to be on the hunt for where the garlic mustard is still coming up. I am pretty happy about this original area. There really weren't any new garlic mustard plants germinating. I do have some that I'm going to have to pull. They're in their second year, so I want to get them before they go to seed. But I found that they're a little bit easier to pull in the second year, actually once they start to send up their flower stalk. So we'll get them taken care of in April because they bloom in May. All right, well, it's been a good gardening year. Pretty happy with the progress of this pollinator garden, and we'll talk to you in 2021.